So hello from Green-Mopeds in London. So today we're going to follow up with our recent ride review of the Naxeon i.am with a static review, because I know people have been asking for that. We haven't actually put it next to anything like we normally do because, to be honest, there's not a lot of things that you would compare it with, certainly from a design point of view. So we'll just go around the bike and give you some information about it, and hopefully that will help you make an informed decision. So let's get to it. Okay, so Naxeon are unsurprisingly out of China. They are new in some respects. This is a new bike that's coming to the UK, but the people behind it are not particularly new. Their main person is actually from a company called Lite, and Lite we talked about years and years ago when we first started in 2018. They are actually a petrol based company, and they produced something called the E3 or LF1200D, I think it was called at the time. And they actually still exist in the UK, Lite, under the MotoGB brand. So tucked away in the back there, the one next to the black one and next to the EV2000, is a Lite E4, known as a MGB E4. So I guess the point to make is that although it's a new product in that respect, the skills behind it are not particularly new. Okay, so there are actually two models in their range that they're launching with. There's the standard Naxeon, and then there's the Pro version. So they call the standard one the Lite version. They are different in terms of performance and battery capacity mainly, but as you'll see, a lot of what's interesting to talk about this bike is actually the electronics of it and what you can do behind the dash and things like that. Okay, but the bike is nearly 2 meters long, and one of the first, I guess, interesting things to say about it is actually the width. So these are obviously the handlebars, and normal handlebars are typically about 70 odd centimeters wide. These from here to here is actually 80, and if you include these mirrors, which obviously stick out, you're talking about 1 meter wide. So obviously it's neither here nor there, other than maybe for filtering. The design of the bike is, as I've said on the ride review, you could easily see this on the film set of a sort of science fiction movie, because it's very sort of cutting edge and straight lines and things like that. One of the things that you might notice is also there's some interesting lighting effects, and it does actually have, and we'll come back to this dashboard in a minute, but it does have, you know, what Tesla would do with the doors that open and things like that. Okay. These things here are called bracelets, and we'll come back to exactly what they do a bit later. But yeah, quite futuristic in its design. This actual side piece that you just saw along here does actually is used actually when you do charging, and it tells you how much charge you're doing. So it's not just a sort of effect for a sort of demonstration mode. Okay, so as you can see, it's very straight lines. Also, you'll notice that the front suspension is called a girder, because if you look behind it here, massive big spring there. Sort of like the accents of this bike, you know, the sort of yellow touches and things like that. Okay. Also notice that the wheels are solid at the back. So usually when you put a chain through a bike at the back, you put it through the wheel. So not particularly possible with this, but obviously you've got the sort of main swing arm here. Here you can see obviously that the power is going into the hub motor. So as I said, there are two different versions. Both of them are 125cc equivalent licenses, but the main difference between them is one, the weight. So the weight of the Pro is 137 kilos, and the weight of the standard one, the Lite version, is 129 kilos. The reason for that is the bigger battery in the Pro version. And the reason it's got a bigger battery is that it's got obviously more power. So nominal power is the one that you see on your V5. The nominal power of the Lite version is 6.5 kilowatts. okay, and the nominal power on the Pro version is 7.5. But the maximum power is 8.5 on the Lite and 10.5 on the Pro. Both of those things mean that it's still a 125, it can still be ridden on a CBT. But to give you sort of more range to cater for the greater power of the Pro version, there is a 72 volt 90 amp hour battery fixed in the Pro and a 72 volt about 63 amp hour battery in the Lite version. Okay, so that is going to give you about 75 miles quoted range on the Lite and 112 quoted range on the Pro. Okay, so let's do what we normally do and knock off 20%. So we're talking about 50, 55 on the Lite and maybe 80, 85 on the Pro. Okay, so a decent amount of range and also a decent amount of speed. So the Lite version is 60 miles an hour and the Pro version is 68. But this bike has also a boost mode, and we'll come on to that in a second, but essentially that will add about 4 or 5 miles to those quoted speeds. So you're talking about mid 60s for the Lite version and low 70s for the Pro version. So you're getting into bikes that could sit there quite comfortably on a dual carriageway going into a city, okay? Which has always been sort of like the next level up of these bikes. You know, we have, you know, when we started with the TC, 28 mile an hour, you know, you were left to sort of the side roads and things like that. Now you're getting into bikes that can, in our sort of category, not in Zeros and Energicas and all that, but in our sort of category, you're already now starting to see bikes that are getting into that sort of higher speeds and not for Zero, as in Zero the brand, money. Okay, we'll come on to prices at the end. But let's go around it a bit more. So as you can see, a very sort of sleek design. It is a single passenger bike, no rear pegs. Okay, there's talk about doing a sort of top box sort of idea here because there's no storage. Underneath here is the controller, no storage underneath there. One thing you might start to notice about this bike is things like this. So we're getting a few bikes in now that have front and rear cameras, and this is the second one in recent times here. You see this front and rear camera. So there is trip recording on this bike, and you can configure a lot of that through the actual dashboard, okay? Just to go around to the front here. Here you'll notice another little interesting thing, ABS. So again, more and more bikes are now beginning to come through in this sort of category. We're not talking about the, you know, the £12,000 ones up, but more and more bikes are now coming through with ABS. So the other one that we have signed up recently was the Segway E300. That also has ABS. So some of these more sort of advanced or better features are now again filtering down into the sub £10,000 category. Okay, whereas before you would have to, you know, get a Zero or an Energica, and if you wanted sort of things like ABS. This one also has got traction control as well, and it's also got regen. Okay, so getting onto the bike. The way you start the bike is through an NFC or the app. Okay, so underneath here, there's an NFC sensor, and you can just turn the bike off with that, hopefully. Okay, there you go. You can also have up to 8 keys, as they call it, connected to the bike. So a key can either be one of these NFC things or a mobile phone key. Okay, so you can have up to 8. Well, 4 of each is what you can actually have. Okay, so you start it by holding the NFC fob to the sensor there, and you hear a little beep. And as I said, these things are called, they call them bracelets. And these things help you with a few things. One is, if the alarm is going off, these things will flash orange, as will the bike will flash. The alarm's not too loud, to be honest, but there is a visual warning that the alarm is going off. And 2, the other sort of interesting feature about this bike, as I mentioned on the ride review, is it's got radar on it. So as you are riding along, If people are coming up in your blind spot, these things will flash based upon which side that they're coming at you from. Okay, so quite an interesting and useful safety feature there. So you'll see it on the ride review. These things flash orange when you've got someone in your blind spot. Okay, so useful to, well, not make you have to use your lifesaver, I suppose. Right, so on the dash, hopefully you can see that. Right, so there's a lot to this dash. Interestingly, it is Android based, okay? So not some sort of proprietary operating system, Android based. There are different tabs on the dash here, okay? So this one's telling you tire pressure monitor, so it's got inbuilt tire pressure monitors, average consumption, things like that. Is the temperature okay, your state of charge, how much range you've got. This one's talking about trip counters and things like that, which you can reset. So this is a touch-sensitive screen, obviously. Obviously, to get the best use out of that with gloves, is you need to have gloves that work with touch-sensitive screens. Else, you won't be able to do much while you're riding. Here you go into the camera system. Okay, so you can start the camera system through here by pressing this button, or while you're riding, if you press on this, it will start recording. Okay, so and then you get a list of recordings here that you can go back through. Okay, so see, this bike's been around to quite a few dealers, all the way up to Scotland and back by the looks of it. Okay, and then you can just play them or delete them or whatever. Okay, you just delete them through the menu system. Okay, so that's that. So as I said, you can start that as you're riding. So either for uploading to the internet or for safety, whatever, you can actually do that from there. The navigation system, it's not configured on this bike, but this is real navigation in the bike's dash. This is not like NIU do, where it's sort of a replay of navigation through your actual phone. This is actually going through the dash. So you actually put in your destination into this, and it will take you there. Okay, so again, sort of they're improving the functionality on these bikes as they come out. Okay, the main one is done through here. This is all the configuration. So for example, you've got your headlight delay. So when you turn the bike off, how long will the main lights come on for? There's also automatic headlights. So you probably can't see it, but here, you can't see it on this, there is a sensor. So that will turn the lights on and off, and you can obviously configure that. Light show was what I showed you before with that whole Tesla mode, if you like. The sound, whether you want it off or not, which some people might. Display, screen brightness, the theme, light or dark. So if you want to have it as a dark theme, which I probably should have picked maybe. That's that. Obviously, whether you want it in kilometers or miles, temperature in centigrade or Fahrenheit, is it in English, Chinese, or German, etc., etc. Vehicle control, so that's how you can open the seat, although, as I said, there's nothing on there to really look at. Steering lock, so like a few other bikes now, when you turn this bike off, the steering lock automatically sets. Okay, so you can't do anything. And that is to configure that. This mode here is probably the most important one. So when you're riding along, obviously you've got your buttons around the dash. So here we've got, this is called the multifunction switch. This is reverse gear because it's got a reverse gear. It's also got something called snail mode, which allows you to push the bike with assistance. P mode, which is obviously getting it in and out of ready, and then cruise control. But this button has a couple of choices, and it's actually set through this thing here. If you use this as page, using this button goes through the menu system, which is not what you want, because if you do that, then the only way to change modes while riding is through the screen. Okay, so obviously it's not for me to tell you how to ride the bike, but you definitely need to set that to riding mode, because that then enables this button to set your modes actually on the handlebars, rather than faffing about changing modes here. Okay, so that's that. Energy recovery systems, that's regen. Said you can configure modes through this screen. I don't know why you would. Traction control, ABS, the auto recording, the radar, which is what I was talking about, all configured through that. Silent 90 we've done, display we've done, network is you can connect to the internet for over-the-air updates. So this is now connected to Green-Mopeds, or you can use a hotspot, etc., etc. Okay, so you'll take a bit of time to work all these things through, but essentially you set your bike up and then you can choose various functions based upon how that screen looks. Okay, so now it's back to the main screen, and then you can scroll through this screen going through each of these tabs here. Oops. My fingers are a bit yeah. Okay, all right, so that's that. On this side of the dash you've got normal stuff, indicators, horn, hazards, lights, etc. And then here you can see that it's got your master brake cylinders on the top to allow easy topping up of the brake fluid. And then this button here is to open the charging port. Okay, and the charging port is here. So another thing you'll notice about this bike is it's type 2 charging, or type 1, or 13 amp plug at one end into type 2 here. Okay, so that's how you would charge the bike, and that's how you get to the actual port. Okay, so charging time is dependent on the version you've got. So it's 3.5 hours for the Lite, and it's 5 hours for the Pro. What else to tell you? So boost mode I've talked about, weight I've talked about, blah, blah, blah. I think that's about it. I mean, the main thing about this bike is obviously the design. It is definitely unique in that respect. I haven't seen any other bike that's going to look like this, that's even coming right now. It's got the performance to match, and it is actually quite performant considering even in the Pro version, it's only 10.5 max. It's not 10.5 continuous. So you are getting quite a lot out of it, considering what it is. Obviously, some people wouldn't be able to take this bike because it's fixed battery, but if you've got a garage or something like that, then it would certainly be one to consider. It is going to be on the grant for as long as the grant continues. We're now in June 24. I suspect the grant is going to stop next April, but until then it is on the grant. So the prices that you pay, as in the price after the grant has been deducted, is £7,000 for the Pro version and £6,000 for the Lite version. Okay, so you will then get the, that's assuming you get the £500 off. Okay, so colours are essentially this one or white. They will be here in the next month, I guess. And obviously, if you want to have a test ride, we are sort of trying to organise test ride days, as there are only a couple of these bikes in the country. So if you would like to sign up for a test ride, then please feel free to contact us. And if you have any questions about this bike, please also feel free to contact us through any of the methods that you now know. And thanks very much.